Joining us now, member of the Intelligence and Armed Services Committee's independent Senator Angus King of Maine. Great to have you with us.
Senator, thanks so much for being with us. Since you're on the Intelligence Committee, let's talk about the intelligence that Vladimir Putin's been receiving in the lead up to this war.
Well, it looks like he's made one of the greatest mistakes any leader can make, which is to intimidate the people that are telling you supposedly the truth. And this is a colossal intelligence failure, both in terms of the capability of the Russian army, but more of that than the resistance of the Ukrainian people. They thought, you remember the first day or so, they were going to be peacekeepers.
Right.
They were going to
welcomed as liberators.
Yeah, liberators.
Brothers.
And a massive underestimation of the resistance. And you know, one of my favorite sayings is, if you and I agree on everything, one of us isn't necessary. And my sense is that Putin got what he wanted to hear because, you know, he has a way of getting rid of people who tell him things he doesn't want to hear. And I think that's gotten him into this absolute debacle. He's destroying two countries right now.
Right. It's got all of us into a world crisis where he's threatening the use of nuclear weapons every day. The question is, how does he get out of this corner? He has been delusional. He started a war that is going terribly, even if he knocks down every building in Kyiv and the Russian troops go in. They're going to be facing a resistance that ends up making it an even bigger nightmare for them than Iraq was for us.
How do they hold it? They can't hold it. He can bomb them into submission. This could be Chechnya in 2000. And remember, the Russians enabled Assad to do barrel bombs in Syria, probably one of the greatest atrocities in recent history. And here we are back again. They will do something like that, and that's what worries me. What's his way out? I don't know. I mean, he keeps making demands about eastern Ukraine, Crimea, promises not to join NATO. He's trapped right now, and I think you asked the right question. What is his off-ramp? And I don't think he knows.
Well, if it's Crimea, if it's eastern Ukraine, he will obviously put in the requirement that Ukraine is neutral, that Ukraine demilitarizes. And I see no way that the Ukrainians would ever agree to that, even if they decided to agree to giving him some land in eastern Ukraine. They would never agree to demilitarize.
And he's taught them not to.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, one of the tragedies of this is, you know, Ukraine was the third largest nuclear power in the world in 1992. They gave up their nuclear weapons in exchange for an explicit promise from the Russians never to invade. So what does this experience tell Kim Jong-un about giving up his nuclear weapons?
Right.
He's going to say, look what happened to the Ukrainians. I'm not going to go that. This is my insurance policy.
How would this be different if the Ukrainians hadn't given up their nuclear weapons? If the Ukrainians had not trusted the international community to guarantee the territorial integrity of their country.
No, it wouldn't have happened. That was their insurance policy, and that's the danger. This is a huge setback for nonproliferation.
A piece in the publication Defense One also argues Putin must be given a way out. Quote, a drawn-out war in Europe that grows increasingly brutal each day is not in anyone's interest, including Moscow's. Ultimately, the aim should be to create political options to end the war through pressure, diplomatic means, and off-ramps. An instrument to incentivize Moscow to seek compromise could be to make the newest sanctions conditional and linked to political aims such as a ceasefire and a withdrawal of Russian troops. Europe and the U.S. should also be careful not to create the impression that it is out to remove Vladimir Putin as its explicit goal. Europe and the U.S. need to be constantly vigilant and one step ahead in thinking through Russian counter-actions and sanctions, which we still might well underestimate, especially for Europe, which is quite new to these geopolitical military power games. Putin is not. The stakes are extremely high, and this will likely be a long war for Ukraine. Europe and the U.S. need to prepare accordingly. A clear-eyed soberness is the need of the hour.
A clear-eyed soberness is the need of the hour. And again, the talk of trying to think right now about what's the unthinkable, which is giving Putin a way out. But when you have one or two senators running around talking about regime change, that's the last thing that we need Vladimir Putin to be hearing.
That's his ultimate fear, and that's where all hell breaks loose. And that's why I agree with the comment that you just read, that we've got to talk about Ukraine, not talk about Russia. And there are options, backing off on the sanctions if they have a ceasefire, if they withdraw their troops, if they stop the aerial bombardment of civilians. There are some of those kinds of options. But if he's talking, the problem is he's already lost this war,
right?
Because Ukraine is going to hate Russia and Putin for generations.
Yeah.
So even if they control a lot of territory, they'd have to have a trooper on every street corner.
They'll keep fighting
and keep fighting forever. And so he's lost this war. The other thing, he's got to cut his losses in Russia. One advantage a dictatorship has is that they don't have to care about public opinion, and they don't really have to care too much about sanctions until it reaches their inner circle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think the sanctions on the oligarchs are so important. Right now, Putin's the most dangerous, I think the most dangerous man in world history.
Yeah.
Because he's trapped and he's got nukes. And part of their doctrine is the possibility of using them.
Good God. Mike Barnacle.
Senator, let's talk about Putin, a dangerous man, certainly. Putin's impact on domestic politics. I don't know what the price of gas is in Portland, Maine this morning, but I bet you it's a lot higher than it was 2 weeks ago. What do you think the reaction is going to be among not only the people in Maine, but Americans in general, when they look at Putin, when they see these daily horrific scenes of this atrocity on their TV screens each and every night? What do you think the reaction is going to be when they finally realize that freedom isn't free?
Well, it's funny you should ask that question, because over the weekend I was in Maine, and the most frequent comment I got was, "Why the hell are we buying Russian oil? Let's stop buying Russian oil," even though that could well increase gas prices. One of my colleagues put it pretty well the other day that, look, the Ukrainian people are dying. How about we have to pay a little bit more for gas, hopefully on a temporary basis? But that's the reality that we're facing. We can't sugarcoat the fact that there are going to be impacts here in this country of the various sanctions that are being applied, particularly on the energy side. But it is the comments that I've gotten so far. I mean, nobody likes the high gas prices, over $4 now, $4.20 over the weekend. But people are really committed, I think, to defending the country of Ukraine and making a contribution to do so.
Senator Angus King, thank you so much for coming in. It's great to see you.
Great to be with you all.
Thanks.
Up next.